Chapter 350. Daybreak hesitated for a moment, but in the end she still put it away and casually placed it on the side of the pillow. Perhaps it was because she had fiercely cried, but at this time she felt physically and mentally exhausted. Closing her eyes, she quickly fell into dreamland, but her sleep was not stable. Her closed eyelids trembled slightly and her eyelashes were slightly moist. Looking at her, one could not help but feel pity for her. Qingzhu wrung out a handkerchief and wiped her face. Sitting on the side of her bed, she quietly watched her for a moment. Sighing in her heart, Hongyan's life was full of misfortune. Soon after, a smile appeared on her face. Thinking that in the future it would not be like this. Wang Fei was the best mistress, generous and benevolent. As long as they did not have any thoughts that they should not have and obediently did what they should do, their lives would not be bad. After daybreak it gradually calmed down. It was probably because her heart had calmed down and was ready to welcome a new life. Daybreak slept for more than 2 shurchen. After waking up, her spirit looked a lot better and the feeling that she gave people also changed a little. She seemed to not be so indifferent and had some vitality, as if her dead heart had started to beat again. However, it was not strange to have this kind of change. Leaving that kind of place was equivalent to jumping out of the fire pit. She also did not enter the inner residence as a concubine, so she did not have to worry about the chaos of fighting between wives and concubines. Being well-behaved, she could always live a comfortable and stable life. Daybreak turned her head and saw that the box beside the pillow was motionless. It could be seen that during the time she was asleep, no one had reached out their hand. Although she did not know the specific amount inside, but with the face value of 10,000 taels per piece, there were at least several 100,000 taels in the box. As the saying goes, wealth moves people's hearts. As a servant of Jin Wangfu, they could not be moved by so much money. Were they as rich as their mistress and did not even have the slightest curiosity? Definitely not. Could only mean that their temperament was good. Daybreak slowly smiled. It seemed that the pain on her body had lessened a lot. Although it was still painful, her heart felt comfortable. Her action was not deliberately to test anything. Daybreak was also a person who did not care much about money, so she just casually let it go. Then she unexpectedly got this kind of result. They had stayed in Chuanzhou for a long time. According to the plan, they would leave in the next few days and head to the next Fu city. As for Baishao and Daybreak, they would either stay in Chuanzhou to recuperate or go with them. After all, when Jingwan and the others left, they could also stay on the boat. Taking advantage of the 2 or 3 days left, they could recuperate more. At that time it was up to them whether they left or not. Naturally, Gongjie was still busy making the elixir of youth. From the first batch of medicine he knew that this prescription was not fake. It was indeed that ancient prescription. Moreover, after carefully studying the medicine in it, he was 100% sure that it would hinder fertility. Moreover, as long as one took 10 pills, it would take at least 10 years of recuperation to conceive a child. Moreover, the damage caused by this medicine could not be seen under normal circumstances. After careful consideration, Gong Jio made some slight changes to the prescription. Originally there were 10 pills. 5 pills would take 10 or 20 years of recuperation and it had to be done properly. In this way 100 people could save nearly half of the medicinal herbs. It also saved time and effort. Why not? During this period Li Hongyuan met 2 people. One was Iron Salt Head and the other was Su Ting. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but the 2 of them met together. Iron Salt Head's injuries hadn't healed yet. His body was still as fat as a pig's. However, the Maitreya Buddha's smile on his face had disappeared. Only after seeing Li Hongyuan did the evil aura around his body lessen a little. He, Iron Salt Head, had followed his father to run the business when he was a little over 10 years old. At that time he was just a small merchant. After suffering enough, he also learned to be obedient. After 34 years he thought that he had the means and shrewdness. But he did not expect that in the end he would fall into the hands of a woman. Of course, when he did not know for the time being, this woman naturally referred to Baishao. After that, Li Hongyuan wanted to deal with Iron Salt Head, and was preparing to uproot his power and family. As such, naturally he would not make a big fuss. After all, Jiangnan was so big. Moreover, Iron Salt Head was said to be the #1 salt merchant in Jiangnan, but the scope of his business was not just Jiangnan. If the power behind him was alerted, those people might escape. Without a doubt, they would also take away a large amount of money. Li Hongyuan did not lack money, But he would not complain about having too much money. After all, if he really sat on the throne, there would be too many places to spend money. Therefore, when Iron Salt Head was brought over, he had not yet become a prisoner. Because Iron Salt Head was carried in, Li Hongyuan did not force him to stand up and salute. Li Hongyuan sat on the main seat, sipping his tea a little absent-mindedly. Then he placed the teacup on the table, making a slight sound. His gaze did not look at Iron Salt Head at all but fell on the kneeling Su Ting. However, that gaze was like the baptism of the four gods. Even if Su Ting lowered her head, she would definitely feel as if there was a blade at her back and she could not help but tremble. Li Hongyuan supported his chin with one hand. To scheme against this prince, your courage is not small. If there was a bit of luck before, Su Ting would already be trembling like a sieve at this moment. She knew that she wanted to borrow a knife to kill someone and it was actually a dangerous move. However, she really could not stand Iron Salt Head's torment. The injuries on her body had never healed and because of her hard bones, she gritted her teeth and endured it again and again, arousing Iron Salt Head's interest. Su Ting really could not stand it anymore, but she also did not have the guts to resist. Towards Iron Salt Head, she feared and hated him even more. She wanted to break away from his control, but also wanted to ruthlessly retaliate. Iron Salt Head had designs on Sister He, but Sister He was someone who served Jin Qinhuang, so Iron Salt Head would not lose his mind. She set her sights on Bai Xiao, who had the same face as Sister He. In any case, Iron Salt Head had never seen Bai Xiao before. Of course, if she wanted to escape, she would not stupidly send herself into Iron Salt Head's hands. In order to cover up Bai Xiao's identity, not only did she take the things that represented her identity, she also fed her a mute medicine that could make people temporarily speechless. Even if she could endure Iron Salt Head's abuse, she also had a way to make Bai Xiao lose her life quickly. Everything had been arranged, but she did not expect that Bai Xiao was a martial arts expert. As long as Bai Xiao came back alive, Su Ting would definitely not be able to escape. Iron Salt Head was still confused and did not understand what Li Hongyuan meant. He looked at Li Hongyuan with puzzled eyes. Li Hongyuan did not pay attention to him, but Mu Gonggong sneered. The one who hurt you, a commoner, is Wang Fei Nyang personal maid. She was schemed against by the woman beside you and fell into your hands. Wang Fei Nyang has always been very protective of the people around her. She was injured like that and almost lost her life. Wang Fei Nyang is very angry. Iron Salt had originally thought that he would find the slut who hurt him. If he did not skin her alive, he would not be able to dispel the hatred in his heart. Now how could he still not understand? Looking at Su Ting, his eyes were as wide as copper bells. He really fell into the hands of a woman, but he missed one. This was the main culprit. His fat body suddenly rolled over and the pain in his body seemed to have disappeared. He rushed over and clutched Su Ting's neck tightly. Slut, slut, slut. Su Ting's eyes rolled to the back of her head. She tried her best to pry Iron Salt's hand away. However, the strength of a person who had reached the pinnacle of hatred was no small matter. Su Ting's face turned pale and the strength of her struggle became weaker and weaker. It looked like she was only left with one breath. However, how could Li Hongyuan let her die so easily? With just a look, an Yi came forward and touched Iron Salt Head's arm gently. Iron Salt Head let go of her. Su Ting collapsed to the ground. She took a breath and covered her neck with her hands, coughing violently. The feeling of dying was definitely not good. Su Ting only felt that she had survived a disaster. Give her mute medicine and send her to the pavilion boat. Tell the owner of the boat not to treat her unfairly. Also, she can't leave the pavilion boat without redeeming her. Li Hongyuan's words completely determined Su Ting's future fate. Su Ting, who had not yet recovered, narrowed her eyes. Wang Yi. The pain in her throat made her unable to speak clearly. She couldn't say the rest of her words. Her mouth was gagged and she was dragged out. Li Hongyuan's gaze fell on Iron Salt Head. His gaze was similar to how he looked at Su Ting. Iron Salt Head trembled and hurriedly knelt down. Wang Yi, this commoner really didn't know about this matter. If this commoner knew, even if you gave this commoner 100 guts, this commoner would never dare to covet Wang Ye's woman. Wang Yi, please calm your anger, please calm your anger. Just saying that you didn't know, just saying calm your anger is enough? Li Hongyuan's tone was indifferent, but Iron Salt Head was sweating profusely. He was originally fat, so he sweated a lot. In a short time his clothes were completely soaked as if he was fished out of the water. He hurriedly turned his body to the back. The person who followed him, who looked like a housekeeper, hurriedly handed over the box in his arms. Iron Salt had received it and respectfully raised it above his head, an insignificant gift to apologize to Wang Yi and Wang Fei. An apology gift has been prepared, and you still say that you didn't know? This was clearly picking a bone, but Jin Qin Wang now held Iron Salt Head's life and death, so Iron Salt Head didn't dare to refute a single word. Wrong, this commoner was confused. This is a small profit to show filial respect to Wang Yi. Wang Yi, please kindly accept it. When you return, immediately prepare another gift to apologize to Wang Yi. Wang Yi, please kindly accept it. Li Hongyuan raised his chin. Mu Gonggong understood and took the box. Opening it, he presented it to Li Hongyuan for a look. From the looks of it, there are several million taels in banknotes, and this is still an insignificant gift. Ben Wang is rather curious what will be the generous gift that you all gave. A mere merchant had more than 20 million taels of wealth. Of course, this was just gold and silver. How could such a person not think of ways to plunder all kinds of rare treasures? This part was really hard to estimate. Therefore, this Iron Salt Head's net worth was really frightening. Wang Yi will not be disappointed. Wang Yi will not be disappointed. Today he was called by Jin Qin Wang. He thought that there was an answer to his previous visit, so even if his injury wasn't healed, he still forced himself to come. The 5 million taels in banknotes was originally a filial gift to make friends. He also knew that if the first gift was too much, it would only make the other party's appetite grow bigger and bigger. Perhaps in the future the other party would reach out and ask for money from time to time, becoming more and more accustomed to it. However, he himself also knew that the only capital he held in his hands was money. Other connections in the eyes of a Wang Yi were nothing. Therefore, if he wanted to climb this high branch, he had to let the other party see his value. Clenching his teeth, he took out 10 million taels in one go, and the result. But now the nature was completely different. It was money to buy his life. See the guest out. Iron Salt Head didn't dare to say anything and could only respectfully withdraw. After he went out, he almost fell head first. In his life, Iron Salt Head had never suffered such a big loss. However, after suffering this loss, he didn't have the slightest thought of revenge. When he thought of Su Ting, who had harmed him to this extent, he hated her so much that he vomited blood. However, it was impossible to redeem her. Even bringing her out of the pavilion boat for 1 or 2 days was not possible. Now he couldn't personally deal with her, but he could call someone to do it. Slut, if I don't make you beg for life and death, Lousy wouldn't be called Iron Salt Head. Inside the room, Li Hongyuan's banknotes lacked interest. Squeeze people dry and send them to be salt slaves. So to Li Hongyuan, this black-hearted and black-bellied person, apologizing would be enough? Wishful thinking. Moreover, he didn't even verbally promise. If it wasn't to save trouble, Iron Salt Head wouldn't even have time to recuperate. And this filial piety became Jingwan's private property. Jingwan felt that ever since she married, ever since she was engaged to a certain person, she had become numb to things like gold, silver, and treasures. Especially on this trip to Jiangnan, not to mention counting money until her hands cramped. Looking at these things was like looking at a pile of waste paper. She felt that she had almost lost the concept of money. It was just a number. Jingwan felt that she needed to find something to balance it out. After thinking about it, she got it. In the last feudal dynasty in her previous life, the Empress Dowager, who was at the end of the country and family, spent 40,000 taels of silver a day. She spent 10 million taels of silver on her birthday. In comparison, she only received a little more and didn't squander. It was balanced. And the owner of the pavilion boat, Auntie May, took over Su Ting and said that she would definitely follow the prince's instructions. At this point, Su Ting, who was good at singing and dancing, had unparalleled talent, and was beautiful to a certain extent, not inferior to Daybreak, became the lowest prostitute on the pavilion boat. As long as one could step through the door of the pavilion boat, they could casually ask for her with a bit of money. Throughout the day and night, except for that little bit of rest time, she wouldn't lack all kinds of men by her side. Moreover, Auntie May also forbade her from showing off her talent. Every time she found out, she would be beaten to death. These days would accompany Su Ting until she died. Whether she died on the bed or really couldn't take it anymore and committed suicide. However, Auntie May was a kind person. She gave the only bit of kindness she had to Daybreak. Wanting to die under her hands was not a simple matter. After 2 days, Gong Jiu's ageless pills were all prepared. Li Hongyuan did as he said and directly sent people to deliver it to the Pei family's Chuanzhou residence. Eunuch Mu personally brought a few people and handed the things to the head of the family with a smile. Then he warmly greeted the Pei family's madam and the few ladies. That Pei family's people didn't dare to be negligent and respectfully answered one by one. The old lady is awake? That's the best. We can bring the ageless pills back to the Pei family's main residence. As Eunuch Mu said this, he clicked his tongue in wonder. This old lady's life was really tough. Gong Jiu had already told her to prepare for her funeral, but she still stubbornly held on and even woke up. Facing Eunuch Mu, the head of the family broke out in a cold sweat. I'll have to trouble old Mr. to take care of those ladies. He seemed to be referring to the boxes containing the ageless pills. The ageless pills. Although it was harmful for some people, it was also a great temptation. Goodbye. After sending Eunuch Mu off, the head of the family stood in place for a long time. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and personally looked at the boxes and had people move them to the main courtyard. When his wife saw these things and knew what they were, she couldn't help but tremble. Master, are these really going to be sent back to the main residence? Of course, but it has nothing to do with us. Go and take out 6 bottles now and send them to the 6 ladies. The old lady was startled. Her lips wriggled, but in the end she didn't say anything. It wasn't like she hadn't done this kind of immoral thing before. She had even killed an unborn child, not to mention that she hadn't killed anyone yet. Moreover, she was afraid that she had no choice but to do this. If she didn't do it, the ageless pills might be used on her own descendants. Outsiders could never be more important than family. The old lady led a group of maidservants and women to the small courtyard where the Pei family's ladies were locked up. https://11/11807/6653983. Chapter 351. These days they had been clamoring for the main character. Now that they finally saw her, each and every one of them harshly threatened her. Unfortunately, the old woman was too lazy to pay attention to them. She directly had them captured and forced down all the immortal pills. This immortal pill generally needed to be taken at least once every 3 days. At one time it was 5 pills with increased efficacy. The side effects were even worse than before. As for whether there would be any side effects other than hindering children, Gong Jiu expressed that he also didn't know. After all, he didn't find anyone to test the efficacy of the pill. Things that were forced down people's throats, no one would think that it was a good thing. Old witch, what did you give us to eat? As they questioned, they reached out to scratch their necks, wanting to spit out the thing. The old woman was quite indifferent towards these people from the main family. People from prestigious families all thought highly of themselves and considered everyone beneath them. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. The virtue of these little ones was enough to see what the previous generation was like. It was no wonder that it caused the family to fall to such a state today. Not to mention that there was no family power in the imperial court. Even if there was, such insolence would only bring disaster to the family. What did you eat? Ah, the immortal pill that Wang sent over. The old woman smiled. A beauty-preserving sacred product. Ah, how many people want it but can't even see it? You all ate 5 of them at once, you should be rejoicing. Seeing the ghastly appearance of these girls from the main family, the old woman's original sense of guilt completely disappeared. She had to say Wang was really benevolent. There were many ways to sterilize a woman, why bother to make such a beauty-preserving good thing? She was already old and wouldn't drool over this thing. However, her married daughter and daughter-in-law should like it very much. In any case, they had already reached the age of old pearls and their children were already more or less born. To be able to become beautiful, who wouldn't want it? Unfortunately, it was just a thought. She didn't have the courage to touch this batch of pills. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. At this moment, each of them became pale. They no longer pretended to scratch their necks. Instead, they no longer cared about their bearing and reached into their mouths to scratch their throats. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. That fingernail-sized pill not only tasted good, it also melted in their mouths. How could he really dare? How could he really dare? We are from the main family of the Pei family. The Pei family is the richest family in Jiangnan. The richest family, do you understand? Wasn't he afraid of offending the Pei family? Who gave him the guts? Who gave him the guts? The old lady stood at the side as if she was watching a joke. They didn't live up to their name. So what if they were the #1 clan? Who gave Jin Qinhuang the guts? Of course it was his birth. Moreover, what he gave was a beauty supplement, and it was a prescription from the Pei family. As long as he did not mention the side effects of this medicine, who could criticize him? Speaking of side effects, he had to talk about why the Pei family gave him this prescription. If he revealed it, not only could he push it away cleanly, but he could also openly cause trouble for the Pei family. The old madam suddenly realized the reason why Jin Qinhuang used the immortal Dan instead of other extinct medicines. It was indeed brilliant. What's the use of shouting at me? If you have the guts to shout at Jin Qinhuang, you might as well see if he has the guts to directly dispose of you. Old witch, you dare to help outsiders against your own people? Grandfather will not let you off. Just you wait. The old woman looked at them coldly. This was exactly what she wanted. She flicked her sleeves and left. Old witch, stop for me, she shouted fiercely, but this was not her own territory. As the host, when she became ruthless, could you, a mere guest, have the advantage? After leaving this side, she looked at the closed door on the other side. Ever since Pei Yue-ing was violently beaten, she had not left that room. And those who had seen her, other than the doctor, were only the 2 servant girls who served by her side. It must be said that the 2 servant girls had also been dealt with very miserably. There was no other way. Who told their master to be favored, they also followed suit. A few days ago, the old madam did not pay attention to her at all. Now she directly let someone knock on the door. The door was only opened a crack when it was rudely pushed back. If the servant girl who opened the door did not retreat quickly, she was afraid that she would have been directly knocked to the ground. Compared to the previous people who did not know life from death, they only had panic in their eyes. "Where is your miss?" The servant girl stammered and could not say anything. The old madam was also impatient and directly sent someone to find her. The room was so big that it did not take much effort. However, this move did not find her. The old madam sneered. Did they really think that she was too ashamed to see people and hid in the room and did not go out? How long has your master been out? Old madam, shut up, I am just a commoner with no rank and no grade. I am not worthy of this title. Only people in the main house dare to break the rules. Just say it, how long has your master been out? Don't talk nonsense. Just went out not long ago. This servant girl was not arrogant at all now. Come, go and find the miss of the 4th generation of our main house. She is the role model of the Miss Pei. She cannot lose face for the Pei family. The old madam did not think that Pei Yue-ing could leave this house. Because of the recent events, she gave a death order. The front door, back door, side door and corner door of the house were all very strictly controlled. If anyone received benefits and secretly let a master out if they were caught by her, it would not be as simple as being sold. Sure enough, Pei Yue-ing was still looking for an opportunity to go out. Unfortunately, she was not able to do so. She was still secretly hating that an ordinary house was so strictly guarded. She thought that there was some treasure in this broken house and did not know that this was the influence of Jin Qinhuang. Pei Yue-ing was not familiar with this house. When the servants here deliberately wanted to find her, it was simply a matter of time before they caught her. Pei Yue-ing was forcibly pulled back, but she firmly protected the headscarf on her head. Her face and body were fine, but her head... The old madam glanced at her and declined to comment. Miss, it is best to know your place. Don't think that you can achieve your goal after leaving this house. Jin Qinhuang's people are guarding outside. Because of your ambition and self-righteousness, you have harmed the Pei family to this extent. Do you really want the Pei family to be exterminated before you are satisfied? Pei Yue-ing pursed her lips and did not speak. But whether it was the clenched fists or the fluctuating emotions in her eyes, it all showed that her mood was not calm. Based on what was the basis of putting all the blame on her head? She did not wash away the disgust of great-grandmother and sacrificed her reputation. Was everything she did for herself? Who could she find to reason with for everything that she was suffering now? It was obvious that everyone hurt her, betrayed her, schemed against her, but now they wanted her to bear the burden. Don't even think about it. You were heartless first, so don't blame her for being unjust. Even if she died, she would also pull a group of people down with her. Tangzu, what is the matter? Pei Yu-ing restrained all the emotions in her eyes and asked faintly as if nothing had happened. Astonishment flashed through the old madam's eyes. With this temperament, it was no wonder that the clan head would make such a decision. However, to let the chess piece know that her original position was actually a shield, she would only be reduced to an abandoned chess piece in the end. It was okay if she was hit until she could not recover from the setback, but the one in front of her was afraid that it was not the case. He might even bite back. But this had nothing to do with them. Even if she was to be angered, it would depend on whether she really had the ability to deal with them after destroying the main family. The old madam let someone give her the porcelain bottle. Pei Yu-ing opened the porcelain bottle and poured out the pills inside. Although there was a difference in size, but just based on the smell she could distinguish what it was. It's not Old Dan. I have already eaten it. Tang Zhu does not need to worry that I am acting in front of Jin Qinhuang. However, for me it is purely a beauty-preserving sacred product. I heard that it is difficult to make and the herbs used are expensive. This kind of good thing there is no reason not to eat it. Then she naturally remembered Jin Qinhuang's words that day and unhesitatingly ate all the pills one by one. The old madam was very clear that this kind of woman would be very frightening. Tomorrow I will send you and aunt back to the main residence. The ageless Dan has been sent. It is indeed time to go back. Thus I will trouble Tang Zhu. At this time Pei Yu-ing looked very normal, but the old madam felt that her insides were full of darkness and there was a hidden poisonous snake. Moreover, it was the kind that harbored hatred and could choose to devour people at any time. She did not say anything and only wanted to leave quickly. Respectfully sending Tang Zhu off, Pei Yu-ing bowed gracefully. Soon there was only Pei Yu-ing and her two servant girls left in the room. The servant girls shrunk back. They also felt that the current master was extremely frightening because this reaction was simply not normal. Although the Pei clan head's wife would occasionally wake up, but this situation was not optimistic. There was a possibility of her dying at any time. If she could hold on until she returned to the main residence and then die, it was not bad. She simply packed up and the people of Li Hongyuan would not stop her. It was worth mentioning that the Pei clan head did not receive any news from Chuan Zhoufu for a long time. His heart was faintly uneasy and sent someone to Chuan Zhoufu. However, that person was also considered smart. After sensing that something was wrong, he did not go near the Pei clan residence and immediately rushed back. When the Pei clan head received the news, the uneasiness in his heart became more and more obvious. He always felt that something big was going to happen. After hesitating for a while, he decided to personally go to Chuan Zhoufu. Then when he approached Chuanzhou, he met the people of Pei clan who were returning. Just simply understanding the situation, the Pei clan head who could laugh at any time had his face completely sunk. It was unprecedentedly serious. His 5 fingers could not stop digging into his palm. Things were completely out of control. Perhaps he had taken some things for granted, but he did not think that this was all his fault. Although he sensed that there was something wrong with Pei Yu-ing, but this was not the time to persuade her. This great-granddaughter's conduct were all taught by him. Jin Qinhuang's matter was out of expectation because he did not understand enough. As for Pei Yu-ing, the Pei clan head really did not think that she could turn over any big waves. Later on he would pacify and appease her. The most urgent matter was those famous scholars of Pei clan. They must not be destroyed by Li Hongyuan. Once they were destroyed, Pei clan would really have no chance to make a comeback. The Pei clan head also understood that because Jin Qinhuang deliberately blocked the news, it was very likely that the time he received the news was already late. But he could not sit and wait for death. He wrote a letter and sent it out with the fastest speed. At the same time, he also sent a letter to each family's in-laws. Inside he expressed all kinds of concern and mentioned some people in their clan. In essence, it was the same trick that the Pei clan head used to threaten Min clan. It was just that he did not make it clear. However, no one was stupid. How could they not see the threat in it? When those people received the letter, their faces were all ashen. They probably did not think that the Pei clan head would be so despicable and shameless. However, because the matter came so suddenly, they also had doubts in their hearts. What happened that made this old thing Pei suddenly release something that could be used against their clan? It was obvious that there was something unusual. After that, when the people of Pei clan's reputation were met with mishaps one after another, they finally reacted. Someone wanted to deal with Pei clan. Moreover, they had found the foundation and used all their strength to chop it down. It made people only feel fear and trepidation. Whether or not to help Pei Clan became a big problem. If they helped, they would offend the person who wanted to deal with Pei Clan. Who knew if they would become the next target? If they did not help, they would be held by this old thing Pei and could be dragged down by him at any time. Of course, these were all for later. Let's not talk about it for now. The Pei Clan head wrote the letter and ordered them to return to Pei County. Other than that, he did not say a word. He did not even look at his seriously ill wife. He only closed his eyes and rested, thinking about what to do next. At the same time, Jingwan and the rest also packed their luggage and prepared to leave Chuanzhou Prefecture and head to the next prefecture city. The accompanying officials naturally had to stay and continue to work hard until the new officials were in place. It had to be said that when Jin Qinhuang left, the entire Chuanzhou Prefecture city, from the top officials to the bottom of the commoners, did not let out a sigh of relief. There were even people who secretly clapped their hands in celebration. For the commoners, punishing the corrupt officials was something to be happy about. However, if the turmoil was too big, it would only make people involuntarily panic. Therefore, it was better to leave. Jiangnan had 4 prefectures and 28 prefectures. Li Hongyuan was prepared to go to every prefecture city. However, because the matter had been dealt with so far, they could follow the same pattern in the prefectures later. If there was a special situation, they would deal with it specially. This was the so-called killing the chicken to warn the monkey. The living king of hell was too ruthless. He did not show mercy and was not afraid of offending people. Naturally, no one dared to stroke the tiger's whiskers at this time. As long as Jin Qinhuang was in Jiangnan, all the officials had to behave themselves with their tails between their legs, including the neighboring prefectures. At this time they were all very careful. Although they had to continue with their work, they were also very idle. Now they were really focused on sightseeing. Sitting on the boat, Jingwan leaned on the windowsill enjoying the breeze. It was incomparably comfortable. Baishao and Daybreak did not hesitate to choose to follow. If they stayed in Chuanzhou Prefecture, according to Jingwan's temperament, she would definitely leave at least 2 close people to take care of them. Jingwan did not have many people by her side. If they went together, she could casually take a little time to take care of them. At other times, it would not affect serving Jingwan. In Jingwan's view, this was also the best. After all, Gongjiu would definitely follow. With Gongjiu looking at them from time to time, naturally she would be more assured. After Baishao's wound was stitched up, it recovered quickly. After sleeping in bed for a few days, she slowly got out of bed and walked. Gongjiu paid attention to her injury at all times, preparing to perfect this method and sort it out. For the treatment of external injuries, this would become a very important method. For the average person, it was hard to say. After all, there was a saying that the body, hair and skin are given to the parents. Do not dare to damage it. However, on the battlefield it was different. This may save more people's lives. As for Daybreak, because they were all superficial wounds, they had basically scabbed over. However, there were too many parts of his body that were densely packed together. If he moved, the scabbed areas would be in pain. If he wanted to move freely, he would still need some time. Her recovery was good and her mentality seemed to be fine. Jingwan was naturally relieved. Perhaps in consideration of their situation, they still used the waterway to go to the prefectural city, and not the prefectural city closest to Chuanzhou Prefecture. Seeing this, Baishao and Daybreak were moved. They did not say anything but focused more on recuperating. They hoped that they could recover soon and serve Jingwan better. Li Hongyuan naturally understood Jingwan's intention. Anyway, their return journey was uncertain, so it did not matter if they took a detour. However, when Li Hongyuan occasionally saw Baishao and Daybreak, who came out for a little exercise, he looked as if he was looking at dead people. How could they distract his wife? If it were not for the fact that Jingwan would be angry, he would definitely kill them directly. This was the first time that Daybreak encountered such a situation, and her legs almost went weak. Baishao was fine and she was used to this kind of thing. Therefore, after Li Hongyuan left, she just calmly patted Daybreak's arm and said, "It's okay. His Highness values the princess too much, and he will not allow the princess to look at others. However, as long as we serve the princess well, the prince will at most be cold. The princess is the most important one and we just need to avoid him." https://11/11807/6653988 Mobile Edition website, M. Chapter 352. Therefore, in the eyes of these maids, the noble Prince Jean was a paper tiger to some extent. He looked fierce, but in fact he had no deterrent power. Even the King of Hell silently shed tears of sympathy for him. Jingwan's following daily routine was basically like this. She followed Li Hongyuan from one prefectural city to another. After settling down, she rested for a night and then began to receive the wives of officials. To put it bluntly, she began to receive gifts. Because she received too many gifts, she didn't even look at them in the end. When she had accumulated enough, she sealed them and sent them back to the capital to be presented directly to Lu Qingdi. Of course, because the matter in Jiangnan was not over yet, in order to avoid alerting the enemy and causing some people in the capital to collude with Jiangnan and reduce Jingwan's income, she only presented a list for the time being so that Lu Qingdi would have an idea of who to settle the accounts with and how much would fall into his pocket in the end. As for the gold and silver in the treasury, Li Hongyuan was kind enough to keep some. The rest was all sent to the capital to fill the national treasury. This situation lasted for about 2 days. After that, it was time to go out. Of course, this was only if there were places worth visiting in and out of the capital. After these 2 days, she collected the gifts and cleaned up the treasury. Then she clapped her hands and left confidently. Those who hadn't sent gifts would suffer because of this. Haha, it had nothing to do with Jingwan. Anyway, she wasn't the one who was anxious. Whether or not they sent gifts had nothing to do with whether they would be settled or not. On the contrary, the more gifts they sent, the more likely they would be settled. However, the more indifferent Jingwan appeared, the more anxious some people became. They even became more and more obvious. In the end, on the second day after they settled down, there were people scrambling to be the first to come to their door. One gift was more valuable than the other. Little did they know that after they left, some people's faces became colder and colder. When his wife was unhappy, Li Hongyuan naturally had to coax her. Every time he coaxed her, he would write down a debt for some people. This account book was getting thicker and thicker. The truly magnificent mountains and rivers were usually not near the prefectural city. After Baishao and Daybreak were able to move freely, Li Hongyuan began to take a detour. The prefectural city could go to hell. Since his wife was unhappy, he naturally did not hesitate to create psychological pressure for them. Jingwan wondered if this was a good idea. And Baishao, Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's hair. Wan, I can tolerate you infinitely, but it doesn't mean that I have to continue tolerating you because of other people. Just because of 2 maidservants, I deliberately changed the schedule and even delayed the time. Because of you, I didn't care about it. But now, when the master goes out to play, he has to worry about whether the servants have recovered from their injuries. Is this appropriate? Also, don't say that Baishao was schemed against because of me. As a servant, it's natural for her to die for her master. You're soft-hearted and kind, especially to the people around you. Look, which maidservant can be as carefree and happy as the ones around you? The way to manage your subordinates also needs to know when to relax. Blindly being kind will only make them more arrogant. There are even some who can't see their own status clearly and think that they are on the same level as their master. Now, because of me, you're receiving large amounts of money and gifts. Are you sure that they don't have any thoughts in their hearts? Are you sure that they won't rely on your support in the future or even use your name to wantonly amass wealth outside? When the day comes, I'll replace all the people around you who have too much affection for you. At that time, you won't be angry with me. Jingwan raised her head and stared at him blankly for a moment. Then she reached out and hugged him, burying her face in his chest. A moment later, a muffled voice came. I know. I'll listen to your arrangements for the following itinerary. In the end, it was because she had lived in a completely different civilized society for more than 20 years. Her character could be said to have been molded at that time. If she completely denied forgetting, then she was actually denying forgetting herself. That kind of extremely strict and clear class concept, no matter how hard she tried, could not completely integrate with the current situation. Not to mention her close relatives, if the people close to her had bad conduct or did something wrong, she would not be merciful. However, if they knew their place and served her wholeheartedly, it was inevitable that she would be more considerate and take care of them a little more. Human nature, this kind of thing was really hard to say. For example, Baishao now believed that as long as she served Jingwan well, Wang Ye wouldn't do anything to them. In the future, would she think that if she made a mistake and had Wang Fei's protection, Wang Ye still wouldn't have any thoughts? If a small mistake was forgiven, her courage would grow bigger and bigger. It was possible that she would make a big mistake that would implicate Wang. At that time it would be too late to save her. Don't say that the mistakes made by the servants had nothing to do with the master. In fact, the mistakes of the servants, the master had to pay the bill even more. How many people had played themselves into this because of not strict enough? The several head maidservants around her were indeed important people to her. But, in comparison, could they be more important than Li Hongyuan? Could they be more important than Luo family's relatives? Although some things only existed as a possibility, there wasn't even a spearhead right now. This was the so-called prevention was better than cure. After thinking through this, Jingwan also knew what to do in the future. As for going on a scenic tour, would it have any impact on the officials in Jiangnan? Speaking of which, whether they were good or bad, it really had nothing to do with her. She really didn't do anything wrong and wouldn't be afraid because of their pressure. Li Hongyuan gently stroked Jingwan's back. It's just talk, it's far from that level. Even if that day really comes, there's still me. Jingwan, with a bit of attachment that she herself didn't realize, rubbed against Li Hongyuan's arms. Li Hongyuan's eyes narrowed, expressing that he was very satisfied with the current result. Therefore, no matter how dignified his words were, in essence he was just jealous. Because it wasn't easy to deal with people, he could only use roundabout tactics. Those reasons that he said in his eyes, simply didn't take them seriously. If someone really did that, he naturally had a way to remove himself from Wanwan. If he couldn't remove himself, then he would let those who wanted to punish them and those who could punish them shut up. If they didn't shut up, then they would completely shut up. Our living king of hell, in order to make Yama Wang Fei's heart and eyes be wholeheartedly devoted to him, could be said to be painstaking and scheming. For serious matters he wouldn't necessarily put in so much effort. On the surface, Jingwan had Li Hongyuan under control, but in reality? If Li Hongyuan wanted to, it was not impossible for him to slowly clean up the people around Jingwan secretly without arousing Jingwan's suspicion. When his wife threw herself into his arms, of course, Li Hongyuan was not Lu Xiaohui. The hand that gently stroked Jingwan's back gradually changed. Jingwan herself might not be aware of the sensitive spots on her body, but Li Hongyuan was very clear. It was too easy for him to make Jingwan fall in love with him. Jingwan naturally noticed when Li Hongyuan was restless, but she didn't resist. As for the fact that it was daytime now, she had been with Li Hongyuan for a long time, so the daytime was nothing. She had played many tricks. In the beginning she was immature and sensitive. In the past few months she gradually blossomed fully, and bloomed under Li Hongyuan's hands. As a result, Li Hongyuan controlled it very well. As a result, Jingwan basically wouldn't reject him unless it was a special situation. After rejecting him she would suffer for a long time. Besides, Li Hongyuan basically wouldn't give her a chance to reject him. He was already burning with passion, but he still endured and waited for his wife to take the initiative. This kind of fun should be left for when he was fully prepared. Although only the two of them were in the inner room, Nanny Gong, who was outside, heard clearly. Even Sister Hei, who was waiting by the side, also heard intermittently. Nanny Gong didn't have any reaction, but Sister Hei was a little flustered. They seemed to have implicated the princess. If this caused a gap between the princess and the prince, it would be difficult to absolve themselves from the blame. Nanny Gong looked at her and saw Sister Hei's reaction, but she didn't say anything. However, although the prince had ulterior motives, perhaps they should still warn him, especially with the addition of morning light. Although they didn't find anything unusual on the surface, there were still some doubts in some places. Therefore some rules had to be reiterated. The princess was such a kind master. If there were still people with ulterior motives and were ungrateful, the prince didn't need to do anything. She could dispose of them secretly. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Qing Zhu, who was beside her, only vaguely heard the conversation between the prince and the princess, but she didn't know the details. Now that she saw Sister Hei's abnormal expression, she asked. "I'm fine," Sister Hei said. In her heart she had already decided to talk to her sister privately. The management of the maidservants had never been within the scope of Nanny Gong's responsibility. That was Jingwan's wet nurse's job. Nanny Gong turned around and mentioned it. "Sister, if you didn't mention it, I also had this intention. After all, there are new people and the rules have to be taught. Anyway, Morning Light's injuries have all healed and it will only take a day or two." Since sister has mentioned it now, then I will gather them together tonight and teach them the rules. Jingwan's wet nurse said. Nanny Gong nodded and didn't say more. There were some things that didn't need to be done too much. Jingwan and Li Hongyuan didn't appear until dinner time. Li Hongyuan didn't seem to be abnormal. Jingwan's black hair was loosely tied behind her head. Her skin was very good to begin with, and now it was white with a hint of red. At the corner of her eyes, the trace of spring that hadn't completely disappeared was more obvious. It looked exceptionally attractive, and the maidservants were too embarrassed to look at her directly. Perhaps because he was full, Li Hongyuan was in a good mood. However, his eyes were basically on Jingwan. In fact, he wanted to hold Jingwan in his arms and rub and rub. However, he still cared about her dignity in front of the servants. He glanced at the reaction of the others and thought, Wan like this can only be touched by him and only he can get close to her. And the men outside can't even think about seeing her like this. There was something strange about the maidservants, but Jingwan was a little lazy at the moment and didn't have the energy to pay attention to it. After dinner, Jingwan didn't feel sleepy, so she went to do painting for 2 hours. Li Hongyuan accompanied her the whole time. In fact, Jingwan focused on painting and he focused on watching Jingwan. Then she had a good night's sleep. When she woke up the next day, she was 100 times more energetic. Today they were going to climb the famous mountains and tread the strange peaks. According to the estimation, it would take at least 2 days. For the sake of the scenery, they wouldn't be in a hurry. Therefore, they would spend at least 3 days and 2 nights on the mountain. Although Bai Xiao looked fine now, she also knew that it was not suitable for climbing. If there was an accident, it would be troublesome and a burden. Your Highness, I haven't recovered from my injury. I can't serve you by your side. Please forgive me, Your Highness. It's not a matter of guilt. Your health is important. It's not too late to wait until your injury is fully recovered. Black Sister wanted to stay, but she also knew that it was impossible. When the princess went out, at least one of her sister and her would follow. Your Highness, I rarely go out in the past. I don't have enough strength. I would like to ask to stay and accompany Bai Xiao. Please allow me. Daybreak said. That's fine. I'll ask the prince to leave a few more guards. If you are bored in the next 2 or 3 days, you can go out for a walk. Thank you, Your Highness. After the arrangements were made, the group of people set off in a mighty manner. Li Xian was sent out to do errands again. Yu Zhongqing and Master Huoqian were both there. In this way, someone seemed to be more miserable. Looking at the beautiful mountains and rivers, the plank road of the stairway to heaven, Jingwan suddenly missed the camera. Such a scenery, unless a painting master stayed for a long time, absolutely no one could stay in a short time. However, since it was a tour, it was naturally important to have a state of mind to experience the natural scenery. After experiencing that feeling, there was no need to pay too much attention to other things. Perhaps it could leave a deep impression in one's heart and leave it on the painting scroll later. Because they were not in a hurry and just strolled up the mountain, the strength of the maids was completely enough to support them. However, at some point Jingwan began to act shamelessly. Li Hongyuan smiled faintly. In front of so many people, it was rare that Wan was willing to be close to him. He did not even need to give any hint. Without saying anything, he half-squatted down. Jingwan smiled and pounced on him, hugging his neck. Li Hongyuan's hand supported her buttocks. He was still moving up step by step at a steady pace as if there was no one else on top of him. Although the weather was still hot, the higher the mountain, the cooler it would be. Jingwan did not know the specific altitude of this mountain because it did not coincide with the geography of her previous life. This made Jingwan suspicious of the idea that it was a parallel universe of her previous life. However, there was no point in pursuing these questions because there was no answer at all. She just did not know if she would see snow at the top of the mountain. She turned back to ask Sir Darren. Sir Darren was a little ashamed this time. When they first came to this area, for some reason they did not reach the top. But from this official's experience, there is a high chance that there will be snow. Jingwan nodded to show that she understood and did not make things difficult for Sir Darren. They camped halfway up the mountain for a night. Because they were well prepared, they still had a comfortable time. Because Jingwan was prepared to go to the top of the mountain to see the sunrise on the morning of the 3rd day, they slowed down again on the 2nd day and expanded the range of their stroll halfway up the mountain. At this time they could see the clouds and fog at the edge of the cliff, which was definitely a great enjoyment. In the end, they camped at a location about half an hour away from the top of the mountain. At this time they could clearly feel the coldness. Jingwan nestled in Li Hongyuan's arms and slept very comfortably. The next day she woke up early and simply washed up. You don't have to follow this kind of poetic scene. Li Hongyuan naturally only wanted to enjoy it with his wife alone. In reality, when the red sun rose, the snow at the top of the mountain was covered with a layer of red with a hint of gold. The churning sea of clouds was even more dyed with deep and shallow golden red. The beautiful scene at that moment was so beautiful that it was enough to make people forget everything around them. Although this was not the first time they had seen the sunrise after coming to Jiangnan, the scenery before was still lacking compared to the one in front of them. So beautiful, Jingwan whispered softly. Li Hongyuan turned his head to look at her and reached out to touch her slightly cold cheek. He felt from the bottom of his heart that no matter how beautiful the scenery was, it could not be more beautiful than the person in front of him. Li Hongyuan had never thought that there would be a day like this. It was beautiful and tranquil, and he wanted it to last forever. The sun gradually rose. Jingwan seemed to have finished feeling emotional. She took Li Hongyuan's hand and said, "I'm done looking. Let's go, let's go. Let's go down the mountain." Li Hongyuan's eyes flashed with helplessness. His little sweetheart actually had times when she ruined the atmosphere. They did not rush down the mountain. It was much faster than going up the mountain. They returned to their temporary residence when night fell. Climbing the mountain was also a tiring thing. That night they slept very soundly. Next, Shanbei County, Yangzhou Prefecture and Pei County seemed to be in this territory. https://11/11807/6653992. Mobile Edition. Chapter 353. Li Hongyuan was a man of action and Jingwan was not one to drag her feet. Once they had decided on their destination, they turned around and started moving. Pei County was very close to Tuanzhou Prefecture, but Jingwan and the rest had taken a big detour. However, they were not in a hurry. On the contrary, there were some things that needed time to ferment, so the current situation was just right. On the way to Pei County, they were neither high-profile nor low-key. Other than the fact that they did not have anything that could clearly identify them, the entire entourage was low-key and luxurious. There were less than 50 guards and they were dressed in ordinary clothes, but they faintly emitted a murderous aura. In short, outsiders would know that this entourage was not ordinary and should not be easily provoked. In the carriage, Jingwan's servants, including Baishao and Daybreak, were all present. Daybreak originally wanted to refuse. After all, her reputation was too great. She even knew a few young masters from the Pei family. If she coincidentally bumped into someone she knew at this time, it would be too awkward. Under normal circumstances, no one would ask her anything. However, she had to be prepared for any eventualities. Furthermore, even if no one asked, they would only think that Jin Qinwang had taken in a brothel prostitute. Even if she said that she was the Wang Fei's servant girl, in these people's eyes, it was probably just a cover-up. Even though it was not the case, Daybreak did not want to damage Li Hongyuan's reputation. After all, this kind of thing could easily cause a rift between husband and wife. Then obediently stay in the carriage. Li Hongyuan was clearly a little impatient as he threw out this sentence. Right now, Li Hongyuan didn't want to have anything to do with irrelevant women. Even if it was just an act, even if it was just a rumor, it didn't matter how troublesome the other matters were. In this aspect, he would most likely be very annoyed. Therefore, his gaze towards Daybreak became even more unfriendly. Daybreak basically knew that Wang Yi was very possessive and did not like the people who served the Wang Fei, especially her, this troublemaker. Therefore, she sincerely avoided Li Hongyuan. Even if she accidentally bumped into him, she would bow and never raise her head to reduce her presence as much as possible. Even so, she would still bump into the muzzle of the gun. Daybreak only agreed and didn't feel wronged. But sometimes they felt that if Princess Consort didn't need someone to serve her, they probably wouldn't be able to get close to her. The reason why Jingwan brought Daybreak along was because she didn't want her to think too much. Although she had taken her in, she had also ostracized her. But in reality, once Daybreak's previous identity was known by others, she would definitely be criticized. But there was nothing she could do about it. She had been reduced to a lowly 9 classes, and the general background was not tolerant of them. Jingwan didn't object to Li Hongyuan's decision. It had to be said that the Pei family was not doing well recently. There were problems in all aspects one after another. Not only were there problems with the people, but there were also various businesses. How could the businesses be small in order to maintain the operations of such a large family? As expected, the Pei family received the news too late. Although he sent the letter out as quickly as possible, the famous scholars of the Pei family could not prevent it in time even if nothing happened. And Li Hongyuan's subordinates were also capable of doing things. It was as if a disciple of a great scholar was weeping bitterly in the heavy rain, saying that although his teacher appeared to be upright and elegant, he was actually a beast and was worse than a beast. While he was not at home, he went to his house. His family treated him warmly, but he actually drugged him, humiliated his wife and daughter, and strangled his son to death. That was his teacher whom he respected like a father, but he did such a heinous thing. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people might not believe it because no matter how they heard it, it was quite ridiculous. However, that man was indeed the disciple of the great scholar of the Pei family. Many people knew that the teacher-student relationship was quite good, and that something had indeed happened to his family. Speaking of which, if it wasn't true, probably no man would fabricate such a thing, right? And the Yaman's arrest seemed to confirm this point. Such a famous person, especially one who was highly respected by scholars, would cause a commotion if something happened to one of them. However, it was not long before a few other famous scholars were exposed one after another. It aroused public indignation and was the most shameful kind. Ordinary people were only interested in the recent news, but among the scholars, it was like a tsunami, an earthquake, a volcano eruption. Many people did not believe it and thought that it must be a trap set by someone, especially when they found out that these people all had the surname Pei. It was obvious that someone was targeting the Pei family. Therefore, even if it was such a scheme, one could not underestimate these people. They had students all over the world, which meant that they might be loyal to the world. They respected and revered their master and even saw him as a god. Once they recognized him, they would become crazy and paranoid. Then one should never underestimate the ability of these scholars to stir up trouble. Therefore, in a short period of time, many people wrote in to ask for permission. It seemed that they were still relatively rational for the time being. However, did Li Hongyuan not expect this situation? How could it be? Therefore the backup plan came. Regarding the Pei family, one thing after another in some places in Jiangnan popped up one after another at the same time like bamboo shoots after a rain. Of course, there were some truths and some lies. Many of these were just things that the Pei family had done and were placed on the head of the entire Pei family. The noble and virtuous Pei family, who put aside fame and fortune, constantly thought about returning to the court and releasing another list. On it were densely packed disciples of great scholars. Perhaps some of their families had close connections with the court. This list all hinted that the famous scholars of the Pei family had deliberately chosen these disciples to pave the way for the Pei family. In reality, more than half of the people on the list were officials. 1 or 2, 10 or 8, perhaps it was a coincidence, but what about tens or hundreds? Even some people who originally believed that their teacher was definitely not that kind of person, especially those old foxes in the officialdom, began to suspect that when they or their family members went to him to become his disciple, they were given all kinds of tests and difficulties. In the end, when they finally became his disciple, when they were wild with joy, did their so-called teacher laugh at them and call them fools? Was all of this set up? Once someone began to speculate, naturally more people would think in this direction. If they were willing, even if they had to give up a lot, it would be worth it. But if they were cheated, then they would burn with anger and want to tear the person who cheated them into pieces. The people who wrote in to ask for permission became fewer and fewer. The people who secretly wanted to get their master out of prison became fewer and fewer. And those in-laws who were threatened by Pei clan head naturally knew the reason why Pei clan head suddenly went crazy and threatened them. They had been eyeing Pei clan covetously for a long time. When Pei clan suffered a calamity, they simply clapped their hands in celebration because they could divide Pei clan. But they didn't expect that old Pei had such a deadly thing in his hands. At first they had no choice but to help, but now they all fell silent. Until the current Jin Qinhuang's maternal family was exposed, everything became strangely silent. The matter from 28 years ago was once again ruthlessly exaggerated. All the dirty water was poured onto Pei clan, especially the Pei clan head. He didn't care about his own flesh and blood relationship and forced his daughter, yet he still pretended to be sanctimonious. In this, The role of Lu Qingdi was molded into an infatuated man who threw his beloved woman out of the sea of fire, fiercely whitewashing that scum. All of this happened during this period of time, especially the part about Li Hongyuan. It probably happened when Jingwan and the others were climbing the mountain. Jingwan was too busy, so Li Hongyuan didn't specifically tell her. When she found out that they were now on the way to Pei County, Jingwan's expression was a bit subtle. Everything else was fine but the part about Lu Qingdi. This version, no matter how others see it, no matter what they think, there will be one person who will be very happy. Li Hongyuan said unhurriedly. Indeed, he is obviously a shameless person who snatches by force. Now perhaps he should be praised by many people. Maybe someone will use this as a blueprint to write an inspiring and tragic love story. What His Majesty wants to see the most is that he and the Imperial Gui Fei are in love, so deeply in love that they have no regrets, right? Maybe he heard too much and thought too much and even took this as the reality of the past. Wan's idea is not bad. Find someone to write a few storybooks and find a way to send them to him. Jingwan glanced at him. He really didn't want to miss the slightest opportunity. If the storybooks were in Lu Qingdi's hands, who would benefit? Without a doubt it would be this bastard. Lu Qingdi and his most beloved woman were the fruits of their love. How could he not love them? If Li Hongyuan didn't know what Jingwan was thinking, he chuckled. In this way, some of the things that made him suspicious in Jiangnan can be wiped out. He will feel even more guilty. His most beloved son is so capable, but he can't inherit the throne. This compensation will probably be like a tide. I don't even have to hide the matter of my contact with the Pei family from him. Anyway, the Pei family has collapsed and can't help me. He doesn't have to worry. I can also miss my birth mother from time to time and tell him what she was like before she got married. Jingwan reached out and pinched his cheek. Your skin is really thicker than the city wall. Li Hongyuan held her hand. Nonsense, it's at most half the thickness of the city wall. The corners of his mouth curved slightly, and there was a smile in his eyes. Jingwan was speechless. Li Hongyuan's visit to the Pei family's old residence had been done in advance. Of course, it was the type that didn't require a reply. It was just to let you know when this prince would arrive and to be prepared to welcome him. In reality, the recent events were too fatal for the Pei family. Many clansmen had rushed back. One wanted to avoid it and the other wanted to find out what was going on. Therefore, the number of Pei clansmen at the Pei family's old residence was more than double the usual number. At the same time, there were also many married daughters of the Pei family who came back with divorce papers. To most people, Patriarch Pei could say, no comment. However, to some people, such as the clan elders and the only survivor of the great scholars, who had found a remote place to live for some reason, Patriarch Pei couldn't easily dismiss them. Especially when it came to those heinous matters, he had to explain clearly. Patriarch Pei didn't make up any lies and told the truth. However, the art of speaking was always biased. He said that everything he did was for the Pei clan. His face was expressionless, but he described the current situation of the Pei clan, the challenges they faced and the heavy responsibility he had to bear in order to maintain the clan and let the clan live happily. He continued until, I failed to bring the clan back to glory and instead fell, letting down the ancestors. Tears flowed down his face. He wasn't complaining, but he was complaining. He wasn't trying to shirk responsibility, but he was trying to shirk responsibility. Although she didn't agree with some of Patriarch Pei's actions, as someone who also hoped for the family to return to glory, could she blame him? She couldn't. Moreover, at this time the most important thing was to think of a way to salvage the situation. They couldn't expect to not suffer any losses. Li Hongyuan controlled public opinion too well. The Pei family's reputation had plummeted. It was already good enough that they could maintain the current situation and not develop in a worse direction. However, it was obvious that this was very difficult. When Patriarch Pei heard that Li Hongyuan came to visit, he stood up righteously and said that everything was his fault. He was willing to bear all the responsibility. If he couldn't do it alone, then everyone in his branch would bear the responsibility. He wouldn't implicate the other clansmen. As for those who were implicated, he couldn't do anything about it. He was willing to atone for his sins in the underworld. As such, no one blamed him. They only sighed helplessly. However, the funny thing was that no one stood up and said that they would bear the responsibility with him. No one knew what he was thinking at that moment. Therefore, when Li Hongyuan's carriage arrived at the entrance of Pei County, there was a large crowd of Pei clansmen. There were almost 1,000 of them. The carriage came to a stop and Li Hongyuan stepped out of it. In the middle of the procession were 200 to 300 people. They were both old and young and all of them knelt down. Their leader was none other than clan leader Pei, and all of them were wearing mourning clothes. Patriarch Pei's wife finally couldn't make it through a few days ago. Because of such a big incident, there was no funeral. Other than the main family, they didn't even inform the other clansmen to come back and attend the funeral. Your Highness, this is all this commoner's fault. Please have mercy. Don't take your anger out on the Pei family. With a bang he kowtowed to the ground. Other than the Pei family, there were many commoners who came to watch the show. https://11/11807/6653995. Chapter 354. Li Hongyuan stood with his hands behind his back and looked down at clan leader Pei. He still didn't forget to scheme even at this time. The living king of hell was very unhappy. This commoner knows that he has made a big mistake and angered your highness, but this commoner... Pain flashed across clan leader Pei's face. It was all done by the main family. The rest of the family didn't know. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. I ask your highness to be lenient. These words were so sincere. As soon as he finished speaking, the people beside him also begged for forgiveness and asked Li Hongyuan to be lenient. However, these people didn't plead for him. Was it because clan leader Pei's prestige was too high, or was it arranged before he came out? As the saying goes, the law can't punish the majority. Clan leader Pei thought that although he had schemed against Li Hongyuan, he didn't cause any harm to him. He had already caused clan leader Pei to fall to such a state. He wouldn't kill him, especially now that his relationship with clan leader Pei had been exposed. If he acted too ruthlessly, he would definitely be criticized. Such ruthlessness and mercilessness, even killing blood relatives, would definitely displease the emperor. Clan leader Pei insisted on this point. That was why he exposed Li Hongyuan as the true culprit behind clan leader Pei's persecution, in front of everyone. Then he used public opinion to threaten Li Hongyuan to not do anything to clan leader Pei. Even if clan leader Pei rapidly shrank and even withdrew from the ranks of aristocratic families, as long as clan leader Pei's foundation was still there, and now that the truth had been revealed, clan leader Pei didn't need to worry about not entering the court and not being related to the imperial family. With clan leader Pei's foundation and many outstanding descendants, it was only a matter of time before clan leader Pei stood up again. Because of all these plans, clan leader Pei's heart was still burning. He didn't look dispirited at all. That was why clan leader Pei had clearly suffered a great loss because of his self-righteousness, but the current situation was still the same. Perhaps clan leader Pei would rise again one day, but it definitely had nothing to do with him. It was Li Hongyuan's nature to never accept threats. Perhaps it was because Li Hongyuan didn't speak for a long time. Some people cautiously raised their heads. Some people were stunned when they saw Li Hongyuan's face clearly, especially the few people around clan leader Pei who looked younger than him. They were obviously clan leader Pei's sons. They were even more stunned when they looked at him. It's no wonder that mother fell sick after seeing you. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. Your Highness, please forgive this commoner. This commoner didn't mean it that way. Mother fell sick because she missed little sister all year round. He fell sick because of depression. When she saw your Highness, she was agitated. Li Hongyuan's lips hooked into a cold smile. This blood uncle of his who didn't know his ranking, mumbled and didn't dare to continue speaking. In the entire Pei County, who didn't know that clan leader Pei's wife had already passed away. Logically speaking, even if she saw her grandson, it was possible that her body couldn't bear the excitement. However, unless she was already a lamp that had withered away and had no regrets after seeing the person she missed, she would be able to smile in the underworld for a short period of time. Other than that, as long as she endured through that period of time, as the saying goes, when a person meets a happy occasion, their spirit would be refreshed. After that, she should be even more healthy. The result was that she fell sick and died. Clan leader Pei's wife had a serious illness, but she didn't pass away in a day or two. Therefore, it made people suspect that being too agitated might not be happy. It could be that Enchanting was too fickle and said or did something that really agitated the old lady. Under the influence of people with ulterior motives, the people of Pei County knew Li Hongyuan in great detail. Li Hongyuan finally got down from the carriage and walked in front of clan leader Pei. Clan leader Pei has given a lot of thought. Why don't you personally put on a good show of blood splashing on the spot? Wouldn't the effect be even better? These words were neither light nor heavy. The people watching from the outside couldn't hear it, but the people near him could hear it clearly. Clan leader Pei's entire body stiffened. He faintly felt that it might be. Wang Ye is joking. This commoner sincerely asks for forgiveness and has no other intentions. Great-grandfather really didn't have any other intentions? Wasn't it because great-grandmother's condition had greatly improved, and you deliberately stopped her medicine in order to scheme against her grandson so that you could achieve some unspeakable goal, causing great-grandmother to be so angry that she vomited blood and died? Not far behind, Pei Xiaoying, who was dressed in mourning clothes, suddenly stood up. Her voice was clear and cold as she spoke of the inside story. Her voice faintly contained suppressed pain and grief. Everyone looked at Pei Xiaoying with different expressions. Naturally, most of them were shocked. Clan leader Pei didn't turn her head. She just clenched her fists. Her loose skin seemed to be stretched so tight that it was almost flat. Because her head was slightly lowered, no one could see the emotions in her eyes. Pei Xiaoying's words weren't finished. That year you didn't care about the flesh and blood relationship and pushed great-grandmother out, causing great-grandmother to be heartbroken. She accompanied you by your side for decades. Even if she didn't make any contributions, she still gave birth to your children. Everyone else saw her as having limitless glory. In the backyard of a person like you who wants to control everything, what difference is there between her and that puppet? Have you ever truly given her the slightest bit of honor? Now you don't care about the relationship between husband and wife. In order to achieve your goal, you don't hesitate to kill your wife. How can you bear to do this? Some people looked at clan leader Pei. Their eyes were a bit subtle. Speaking of which, you're a big man and also a clan leader. You have full control of the backyard, hee. According to seniority, I'm Enchanting's cousin's niece. But you schemed and almost sent me to his bed. Under normal circumstances, doing this would only cause people to say a few words. However, for someone who often talks about the rules of an aristocratic family, to do this kind of thing, such a hypocritical thing, how can people despise you? Moreover, you keep telling me that I'm the most honorable daughter of an aristocratic family. I have my dignity and pride, yet you treat me like this? Is it really like some rumors that we're all playthings for your benefit and there's not the slightest bit of emotion? Pei Xiaoying's voice was slightly choked, but every word was exceptionally clear. The people around her were all juniors. In addition, Pei Xiaoying's status was high in the past, so no one dared to offend her. Now they were so frightened by her that their hands and feet went soft. For a moment no one stopped her. Her parents and grandparents were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. But just as they wanted to stand up, they were stopped by Li Hongyuan's low voice. I know that I'm being unfilial by saying this, but it's really great-grandfather that makes people's hearts cold. You even did things that pushed Pei Shi into the abyss. Now you still want to scheme against Enchanting. Have you thought of the consequences? It's true that Enchanting is Pei Shi's maternal grandson, but first he's a prince. Then we talk about other things. If he angers the current emperor, what will happen to Pei Shi? Great-grandfather, don't be obstinate. Wait until Pei Shi is gone, then it'll be too late to regret. Speaking to this point, Pei Xiaoying suddenly pulled out a dagger and ruthlessly stabbed it into her neck. That dagger was unusually sharp. In an instant, blood flowed out along the dagger. Pei Xiaoying's face flashed with an unusually complex emotion. Then her eyes started to slacken. Her body went soft and she started to fall down. All of this happened too suddenly. The people around her all had their heads lowered. Until she fell down, they saw the bright red blood. One by one they screamed and scattered. As a result, the large circle around Pei Xiaoying was completely empty. Only she was left lying in the middle. Her body was white and dazzling red. Such a sharp contrast inexplicably made people somewhat frightened. Placing righteousness before family, this kind of thing some people praised. But there were also people who felt that this kind of person was heartless and unscrupulous. Not only was she unfilial, she was also disloyal, heartless, and unjust. In short, if it was their own family, they couldn't wait to strangle her to death. Because there was no lack of people who scolded Pei Xiuying in their hearts. Naturally, there were also people who doubted the authenticity of it. After all, Pei clan head's good name was out there. Now she was dead. She committed suicide. Without any hesitation, she sacrificed herself for her family. She might be unfilial, but she used her life to atone for her sins. No matter what, everything could be wiped clean. Only then did clan head Pei stand up. His body was faintly trembling. He slowly turned around and saw Pei Xiuying lying in a pool of blood with her eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with deep disbelief and uncontrollable anger. He was actually framed by someone he had carefully cultivated. Moreover, because the other party was dead, there was no way he could clear his name. Compared to losing his life in public, no one would believe his words. He thought that everything was under his control, but reality gave him a ruthless slap. He thought that she was just a good chess piece. Even if she was crippled, he could still squeeze her a little more. https://11/11/11807/6653997. We will handle it as soon as possible. Chapter 355. How does it feel to be devoured? Li Hongyuan's slightly amused voice came from behind him, but this laughter was full of mockery. Originally, even Li Hongyuan was quite surprised. Originally, things were a little unfavorable for him. Although he did not care, it did not matter whether it was resolved or not. It would only affect his attitude towards the Pei family. That was all. However, who knew that Pei Yu-ing would come up with a stroke of genius and make a 180-degree reversal of the situation? This was also good. He did not care about his reputation, but his wife cared about his reputation. Although he could not be any darker now, even if he splashed a layer of ink, he still looked like that. However, his wife probably wanted to wash his reputation clean, even though she might have to bear the reputation of being jealous for the rest of her life. Grandfather, Li Hongyuan called him with a particularly sarcastic tone. I think you should know this prince's reputation in the capital as well as his style of doing things. Could it be that you think those are all fake? Let me tell you, other than my nickname, everything else is real. Some are even worse. For example, I will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, I am ruthless, and so on. If you want to ask me for help, you should act like you are asking for help. Threatening me is the stupidest thing to do. As long as the Qi Yuan is not destroyed, the Pei family will never be able to become an aristocratic family again. It is already a miracle that the descendants of the Pei family are able to become a third-rate family. As long as I am alive, I will not stop the Pei family from becoming an official. At most, they will be a fifth-rank family. Clan leader Pei's body trembled. He wanted to restore the glory of the Pei family. Compared to that, he was one step behind. If he had to die to protect the Pei family, he would not hesitate. After all, at his age, he was already considered old and had no regrets. But now, this is all because of you. Remember to repent to your ancestors. Clan leader Pei's lips trembled. Those who did not know would think that he was in disbelief or was furious. In fact, his reaction at this moment was completely different from Pei Yu-ying's. Even though this commoner has schemed against you many times, I did not hurt you at all. The Pei family is your blood after all. It is inevitable that you will lose your magnanimity by being so ruthless. In the future, how can you make them submit? In the end, he did not dare to speak out loud. At this point, he could not let the Pei family's last hope be cut off. You should be glad that you did not succeed. If you did, I will exterminate the entire Pei family. Li Hongyuan said casually, but the ruthlessness and bloodthirstiness in his words made people tremble in fear. Li Hongyuan chuckled again, but it made people's scalps go numb and their hearts turn cold. So that maternal grandfather can die a little more understanding. You shouldn't have schemed against this Princess Wang Fei. The entire Pei family can't even compare to a single finger of hers. If all your schemes were directed at this prince, perhaps this prince would still be in the mood to play with you. Clan leader Pei's face trembled. I did not think that Wang Ye would be an infatuated person. You should have realized this when we were at the water stronghold. That's right, Jin Qinhuang's love for his Wang Fei was not concealed in front of him. It was just that he did not believe it and thought it was just an act. Because his initial perception was wrong, everything that followed was wrong. In the end, he judged this grandson with the mentality of an ordinary man. However, he was not ordinary. Even so, in the future the other women by Wang Ye's side will still scheme against Wang Fei. Could it be that Wang Ye will also purge them all? Could it be that Wang Ye will guard the current Wang Fei for the rest of his life? Clan leader Pei said sarcastically. Why not? Li Hongyuan did not hesitate and said as a matter of course. Clan leader Pei suddenly turned his head. It was obvious that this point shocked him more than anything else. Want a beauty but not the country. What is the relationship between the two? Li Hongyuan lightly interrupted him. In the future, even if Wang Ye can guard it, will others allow it? Balance between all sides. Do I need other people's permission for my matters? They only need to do their job well. If they touch Ben Wang's head, that is overstepping their authority. If they want it, then use it. If they don't want it, then give it up. There are many people in the world that can be used, that's all. And to use women to balance it, that's just rubbish. Although it was still faint and even a little undisciplined, clan leader Pei was truly shocked by Li Hongyuan's hidden boldness. He carefully looked at this grandson of his. This child, perhaps other than his face, did not have any resemblance to clan leader Pei. He paid attention to the principle of moderation in everything, but his bones were overbearing to a certain extreme. However, he was not obstinate and self-opinionated. More importantly, he was intelligent and shrewd. His methods were not bad. Perhaps he could really do things that others could not do. Clan leader Pei finally admitted that he was ridiculously wrong at this moment. He was indeed self-opinionated. May Wang Ye's wish be fulfilled. Li Hongyuan looked at clan leader Pei, who had calmed down and accepted everything. He had to admit that if this grandfather of his could correct his attitude, he would definitely be a truly capable person. He might be able to fulfill his wish and let clan leader Pei rise again. Unfortunately, it was already too late. It was too late for him to realize this. Although we do not have the title, we are still related by blood. Ben Wang wishes to burn a stick of incense for the old madam. No matter what kind of reputation clan leader Pei had now, he was still the clan leader. He waved his hand and ordered people to clear the way. The clan leader Pei naturally obeyed. Li Hongyuan returned to the carriage. Although Jingwan did not see what had just happened, she still knew the details. Putting everything else aside, there was Pei Xiuying. She is a fierce and vengeful person. She is such a proud person and clearly knows that she will not have a good life in the future. It does not seem too surprising that she would take such a path. However, clan leader Pei was not lightly tricked by her. Not only did he lose his chastity in his later years, even after death he will always carry a bad name. When he was at Chuanzhou Prefecture, wasn't he beaten up by her aunts? Even great-grandfather is so pitiful, those aunts will definitely not have it easy, right? What does it have to do with us? Indeed. Looking at the current situation, the following matters should be smoother than expected. Li Hongyuan nodded. Naturally, he was happy to have less trouble. When they arrived at the clan leader Pei's residence, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan alighted from the carriage and led everyone through the door. Without mentioning anything else, just this residence alone gave off an extraordinary ancient charm. After entering the morning hall, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan burned a stick of incense. Apart from that, they did not say or do anything else. After they came out, Li Hongyuan did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. The clan leader Pei's ancestors have passed down an order for you to hand over all the things that you have kept well. Clan leader Pei was stunned. He probably did not expect Li Hongyuan to ask for those things. His mind raced. May I ask if there is anything special about them, Your Highness? Are you sure you want to know? If you know, the clan leader Pei will really be gone. Clan leader Pei scratched his heart and lungs, but he did not dare to ask more. However, he was unwilling to give up. Is it related to the clan leader Pei's withdrawal from the imperial court? Li Hongyuan smiled faintly. Clan leader Pei understood, but he could not continue to ask. He personally went to retrieve the things and handed them to Li Hongyuan. Indeed, there was a dragon and phoenix jade pendant, a book and a painting. It was not that clan leader Pei had not studied these things before, but after so many years he had not discovered anything. Li Hongyuan asked someone to collect the things. Before you die, clean up the remnants of the previous dynasty's imperial family. Wait for this prince to deal with it. In order to prevent any mishaps, they will probably be exterminated. After that, Li Hongyuan did not say anything else and directly left. He specially made a trip, but the time he stayed was so short. Chapter 356. Thinking about it, we have been away from the capital for half a year. Returning to the capital again, there is a reluctance to part with the freedom and unrestrained, but there is also a deep longing for our loved ones. However, the time we have been away is not short. The feeling of returning home is also a pleasant one. Jingwan sat next to Li Hongyuan and said with a chuckle. Perhaps it was because, although most of the main road was in the water, the total amount of time spent in the carriage far exceeded that. Perhaps it was because of this that Jingwan's motion sickness symptoms actually lessened a lot. Now they were about to enter the capital, but it was only a slight discomfort. Perhaps it was because her mood was good, her spirit was also good. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and gently kneaded it. We will find another opportunity in the future. It's very difficult, isn't it? This time it can be considered a coincidence. As a Qin Wang or Jun Wang, under normal circumstances, they were not allowed to leave the capital without an imperial edict. If they were to leave the capital by imperial edict, it would usually be for official business. A certain person had no power or influence. Opportunities are always created by people. Just like this time when he started to plan this matter, his first goal was to take his wife out for a stroll. This time it took far more time than expected. There should be a lot of impeachment in the court, right? Moreover, there were so many things. The amount of rare treasures that were collected was quite a lot. Not to mention we still had to buy things along the way, big and small. Sometimes we had to transport entire ships. When we reached the capital, it would be at least a dozen carriages. It would be hard to not attract attention. So what? No matter how they jump, they will not hurt me in the end. Jingwan smiled faintly. That's right. According to the information they received when they were in Jiangnan, there was a period of time when Lu Qingdi was completely engrossed in the conversation. Even important memorials had never been read in such a serious manner. Unsurprisingly, he accused Jin Qinwang of playing around in Jiangnan, delaying his return, harboring ill intentions, wantonly amassing wealth, and shaking the foundation of the country. Each of these charges was heavier than the other. Unfortunately, they were all suppressed by Lu Qingdi. Jin Qinwang, whether it was the cheating case of the college examination or the corruption of the salt policy, they were all handled beautifully. The former won a lot of reputation for the court, the latter filled the national treasury. He restrained his temperament and did not act recklessly in Jiangnan. He just spent some time touring Jiangnan and did not delay official business. At the beginning, he allowed him to not delay official business and not cause trouble. What was with these impeachments today? Did they want him, the emperor, to go back on his words? Lu Qingdi might not be the kind of emperor who made arbitrary decisions, but he was also not a puppet emperor who was pinched in the palm of someone else's hand. In the end, he still held real power. When he was truly angry, the officials below could only tuck their tails between their legs. Especially when it was mentioned wantonly amassing wealth, Lu Qingdi's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Excluding the gold and silver ingots that were directly transported out of the treasury, the total amount of gold and silver ingots that entered the capital's national treasury was more than 20 million taels of silver. And the wealth that Jingwan obtained in the Jiangnan mountains after conversion was more than 50 million taels of silver. It should be known that the annual tax revenue of the entire Jiangnan was only slightly more than 10 million taels of silver. The treasury, Jin Qinwang had reported to him and Jingwan had reported to him. In other words, his son went to Jiangnan and plagiarized nearly 80 million taels of wealth. Where did this money come from? At least 99% of it was from stuffing his own pockets. At the beginning, when it was reported that it was more than 10 million taels, it made him furious. But now he really wanted to disregard everything and behead the entire family of those officials. The local officials had close ties with the capital and went through relationships. He didn't know if these people were giving filial gifts to the princes. How could it be that it was only a mere 10 million taels? Each and every one of them now jumped out and said that old Sixth and his wife were amassing wealth. Lu Qingdi couldn't wait to slap them to death. Lu Qingdi used various reasons to deal with people in the court. Many people were demoted, their salaries were deducted, and the princes who were conferred the title of prince when they reached adulthood all suffered. All of them restrained themselves again and again for fear of angering Lu Qingdi. And when Lu Qingdi saw that they were acting timidly, he couldn't help but be angry. It was simply a vicious cycle. When Li Hongyuan told these things to Jingwan, Jingwan gloated a little. Moreover, after they left the Pei family, they further compressed the Pei family. In order to survive, The Pei family basically gave up more than half of their heritage collection. Moreover, the price was so low that it made people unable to restrain their anger. Finally, the head of the Pei family fell ill and couldn't take it anymore. But even so, he secretly executed the descendants of the previous dynasty. In order to control them better, this branch could be said to be a single descendant, so it was not difficult to deal with them. Li Hongyuan also stopped at this time. In addition, Li Hongyuan also sent people to clean up the remnants of the previous dynasty. Without a leader, coupled with the failure to kill Li Hongyuan in the Chuanzhou prefecture and the shock of Li Hongyuan's bloody methods, they basically became a sheet of loose sand. The main thing was that some people were killed and the rest were not to be feared. These things were more or less dealt with and basically became a more regular daily. When there was a special situation, special treatment would be done. After that, it was basically sightseeing. And from one day Jingwan started to buy all kinds of things. After all, Jiangnan was rich and there were definitely many good things. It was already the beginning of October when they returned to the capital. When they left the capital it was the beginning of April and it was spring. When they returned it was winter. When they left it was naturally a grand occasion. Of course the people who came back were all present. Undoubtedly, all the officials of Chuanzhou were already in place. None of the temporary officials stayed behind. After being busy outside for so long, returning to the capital should have been a joyous occasion. Unfortunately, most of them were not in good spirits. They were even more dispirited than Jingwan, who had motion sickness. Previously, Li Hongyuan had already changed into the imperial robes of a prince, but Jingwan did not wear the imperial robes. At the city gate, several adult princes and the sickly fifth prince welcomed their brother back. Li Hongyuan even gave them face. He alighted from the carriage and exchanged a few words with them. And naturally they brought Lu Qingdi's verbal order, asking him to go back to the prince's mansion to recuperate. It would not be too late to go to the palace tomorrow. Li Hongyuan had never been polite to Lu Qingdi. He would not show any resistance and go to the palace in a travel-worn state. Therefore he swung his sleeves, turned around, got into the carriage and left these brothers behind. As for these princes, they could only twitch the corners of their mouths and endure it. This person's bad temper had not changed at all. He was arrogant and did not take these brothers seriously. However, their main target was not them but the accompanying officials. Although they kept exchanging letters, in fact they could not know too much from these letters. Naturally they had to ask in detail. Of course, these officials were not as lucky as Li Hongyuan. They had to go to the palace to meet the emperor and report their trip. With so many people it would take a lot of time for Lu Qingdi to ask them one by one. But they did not dare to go to the palace in batches. Even if it was not their turn today, they had to go to the palace and wait obediently. This was not a mental tiredness but a physical tiredness. As for Jin Qin Wang Fu, because they had already received the news, the steward of the Fu had long been waiting at the gate. A dark mass of people knelt to welcome them. Naturally no one paid attention to them. Returning to the main courtyard, Jingwan suddenly felt that her bones had softened. She sat down and leaned against the big pillow, not wanting to move. The servant girls were busy, but it was something that they were used to doing. Because only Gong Mama and 2 senior servant girls were left to serve Jingwan, the others had returned to the capital first. At this moment, everything was in order, as if the masters of this Fu had never left for a moment. The back of Li Hongyuan's hand gently brushed Jingwan's cheek with a bit of pity. Wan, go soak in a hot bath and relax. Then let Gong Mama help you loosen your bones. Rest well today, I reckon that there will be a lot of work tomorrow. Jingwan nodded her head. Wasn't that right? When she went to Jiangnan together, it could be considered as sneaking away. Before leaving she had married off all of her husband's personal servant girls. These were all crimes. The number of people who wanted to settle accounts with her was not a small number. As the genuine mother-in-law, noble consort Su, she needed to be 120% alert. https://11/11807/6654002. Chapter 357. Jingwan held Li Hongyuan's hand and rubbed it coquettishly. She smiled faintly and said, "Noble consort Su is a loving mother and a good mother-in-law. How could she make things difficult for me?" "Yes, she's a good mother-in-law. The other brothers have been in deep trouble recently, And third imperial brother is no exception. Although the imperial noble consort is still favored, she is already old. Imperial father is staying at her place and she has to find someone else to serve her. She doesn't even have a chance to sway him. Right now is the critical period of fighting for the throne. In order to balance things out, imperial father is suppressing noble consort Su. At this time she doesn't dare to say anything. Each and every one of them wants this prince to divert imperial father's attention. Moreover, I have evidence of those good brothers receiving many benefits from Jiangnan. As long as you're smart, you should be tactful. I'm going to visit imperial father tomorrow and it won't be a short time. If noble consort Su deliberately makes things difficult for you, you might as well tell her a little. Third imperial brother is her lifeblood. No matter how angry she is, she can only be pleasant to you. Noble consort Su originally took good care of herself, and later she received the skincare products from Jingwan. The effects were excellent and her charm and bearing were outstanding. When it came to Li Hongyuan cough, there was no need to talk about it. Threatening her like this. So what if I threaten her? To be honest, Li Hongyuan was becoming more and more impatient with superficial efforts. She is your adoptive mother. You two have a deep relationship. I am your wife. Under normal circumstances, the status of a wife can't surpass that of a mother. If she feels that she has been bullied by you, just come and complain to me. Jingwan laughed. If noble consort Su really went to find this guy, she would probably be so angry that she would vomit blood. However, she couldn't show it. Because her self-restraint was too good, her son naturally didn't notice. Then this person probably didn't realize that he had done something wrong at all. Then he would just clap his hands and leave indifferently. Whether or not to threaten her, we'll talk about it when the time comes. However, you still have to be filial when necessary. Give her some immortality pills. In any case, she had Gong Jiu make some later. Wanwan, do as you see fit. Okay, I understand. Go take a bath. Why don't I go with Wanwan? Li Hongyuan lowered his voice, sounding slightly bewitching. Jingwan's resistance to beauty could be said to be growing rapidly. However, when faced with someone's deliberate seduction, she couldn't help but feel her heart ripple. Jingwan turned her head and slapped Li Hongyuan on the back of his hand. Go by yourself. Li Hongyuan chuckled and deliberately pinched Jingwan's face. Then he left before Jingwan flew into a rage out of humiliation. Jingwan looked at his back and was too lazy to move. She suddenly smiled and moved her body. She was back. Although she might be restricted, it was already pretty good to be able to go out for half a year. With such a background, many people would not have the chance to go out in their entire lives. Those people would probably go from one backyard to another and end their lives like this. As for her, it was a piece of cake for her to go to the farm from time to time for 10 days or half a month. That's right. In Jingwan's view, it was basically impossible to travel far away from the capital. Li Hongyuan basically didn't hide the current situation in the imperial court from her. According to him, perhaps in a few years this battle for the throne would be over. After slowly learning about Li Hongyuan's trump card, Jingwan didn't think that he would lose, unless he didn't want that position. However, Jingwan had never thought of this possibility. At that time, when he ascended to that position, it would be even more impossible for him to leave the capital for sightseeing. It was a bit regretful, but she was willing to give up that little bit of freedom for the friendship between the two of them. Of course, if Li Hongyuan had a change of heart, she would be forcibly deprived of her freedom. However, Jingwan wouldn't think about this possibility now, let alone be sentimental about gains and losses. Princess, the water is ready. Qingzhu came out of the clean room. Jingwan got up. Her husband was right. It was good to relax. In the clean room, other than Nanny Gong, there was also Daybreak. Speaking of which, in the past few months, Daybreak was almost the same as the other maidservants. She did things with ease and didn't seem to have any discomfort. Compared to the beginning, her personality was much more lively and she smiled from the bottom of her heart more often. In short, she seemed to be less fairy and more human. He got along better with everyone. However, Daybreak was a talented woman. She didn't have a problem with the things a talented woman should have. It was also not a problem for her to learn some rules when serving others. But in the aspect of needlework, she was a bit lacking. Moreover, in a place of prostitution, she probably didn't have the time to train girls in needlework. Jingwan's 6 senior maidservants all knew how to needlework. It was just a matter of whether they were good or bad at it. However, even the worst Heimei was 30% proficient in needlework. When Daybreak started to learn needlework, her delicate hands suffered and her fingers were pricked countless times. Other people felt the pain when they saw it. Jingwan told her to stop learning, but Daybreak's stubbornness flared up. She stubbornly insisted on learning needlework. Until now she had made some progress and it was no longer pricking her hands. Daybreak, hum a song for me. Jingwan leaned on the edge of the tub and said. Daybreak chuckled, yes. Daybreak naturally wanted to give up on her previous life. However, she didn't mind singing, playing the zither and dancing with Jingwan at all. Daybreak's voice was very pleasant to listen to. Moreover, she could change her voice. Thus she could sing many different songs with different flavors. Daybreak's voice was not loud at this time. It was gentle and soothing to listen to. It made people feel more relaxed. After the bath, Nanny Gong did some maintenance for Jingwan. Her bones were loose all over her body. Then she fell asleep just like that. Nanny Gong was about to carry Jingwan out when Li Hongyuan happened to lift the curtain and come in. They hurriedly bowed. Under normal circumstances they would be ignored, and this time was no exception. Li Hongyuan carried Jingwan out and directly placed her on the bed. He lay down beside her and was probably preparing to take a nap. After all, it was not night time. This nap would only last for 2 hours. Jingwan came back to her senses. Li Hongyuan wanted to continue to stick to Jingwan. He hadn't returned to the capital for a long time and had a lot of things to do. Therefore he was not polite and asked to leave. Jingwan's main task was to tidy up the things she bought later. As for the things she received, except for a very small portion that was intercepted by Li Hongyuan, Jingwan was too lazy to ask about the rest. Li Hongyuan had seen and used too many good things in his life. There were very few things that could catch his eye. Jingwan just took a look at the list. She didn't know if she didn't see it. When she saw it she was really shocked. It seemed that she had bought too many things. Jingwan was a little speechless. However, as the saying goes, one's own sin must be dealt with properly. The original purpose of buying these things was to give them away. Naturally, they were all high-quality things. If she bought too many things she would give more when she gave them away. Well, it was settled. As for whether she would attract all kinds of attention because of giving away too many things in the end, it had nothing to do with her. Now the most important thing was to send the things to the palace tomorrow. None of the things in the main palace could be missing. Moreover, they had to be carefully selected. However, this was not a difficult thing. As for the things to be sent to the other families, they could prepare them after returning from the palace. What Li Hongyuan needed to prepare was naturally to make things difficult for Lu Qingdi again. To be honest, according to Li Hongyuan's ability to cheat Laozi, if he did it 2 more times, Lu Qingdi's lifespan would definitely be shortened. In fact, at this moment, Lu Qingdi's heart could not be any more stifled. And those officials, whether they were reporting work or listening at the side, their legs were soft and their hearts were trembling. There was no other reason. It was because there were many things that they did not know. Lu Qingdi knew more than them. Lu Qingdi smashed the teacup, the booklet, the inkstone, and almost even the imperial jade seal. Among the accompanying officials, except for those officials who were not qualified to stand in front of Lu Qingdi, only Yu Zhongqing and Li Suyen were calm. They were dressed in official robes and carried a sword at their waist. They both thought of Jin Qinhuang. These people, before they even entered Jiangnan, they were all sent out by Jin Qinhuang. Don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but none of these people were clean. Basically, they were all carrying missions. As a matter of fact, many of them were caught by the black-robed guards. Therefore, for this mission, not to mention merit, it would be good if they were not demoted by 3 ranks and had their salary deducted for 3 years. The whole process took less time than expected. Because the more it went on, the more impatient Lu Qingdi became. In the end, he directly told them to scram back to write the booklet. If they could not hand it in tomorrow, he would make them peel off a layer of skin. The next day, Li Hongyuan and Jingwan entered the palace. Li Hongyuan gave lousy face and wore the imperial robe of a Qinhuang. After all, it was an official mission, the clothes should be more formal. Although Jingwan was not dressed as a Qinhuang Fei, it was still a splendid attire. She wore a full set of red gemstones. The main color of her clothes was red. Her whole person looked as delicate and beautiful as fire. It made her complexion look even more tender and tender. Her complexion looked even better. This appearance was absolutely eye-catching for the harem that entered the same abyss of suffering. According to the rules, Jingwan first went to pay her respects to the Empress and sent a carefully selected gift. Not to mention other things for women in the harem who did not need to give birth to children, the ageless pill was definitely something that could not be refused. Of course, Jingwan generously sent the prescription up. It was clearly stated above. If the Empress was not at ease with the things she sent, she would directly let someone check the prescription. The Empress smiled and praised her. The husband and wife had put in a lot of effort and so on. Then she used the excuse that Gui Fei-su was waiting for her to let her leave. Jingwan was not surprised by the Empress's attitude. After all, she was a mortal enemy of Gui Fei-su and had no direct conflict with Jin Qinhuang. She had no reason to make things difficult for Jingwan. Jingwan did not know that when the Empress saw her, she once again regretted that she could not become her daughter-in-law. It should be known that Kong Qinhuang's stepfii had not been found yet. Every girl that the Empress was interested in would always find all kinds of excuses to refuse. Since Lu Qingdi did not care about this matter, the Empress could only stare helplessly. There were basically no suitable girls that supported Kong Qinhuang. Jingwan went to Gui Fei-su's place. As expected, Gui Fei-su's heart, liver and lungs hurt from the very good scent that she exuded from head to toe. https://11/11807/6654004. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.